Here we go. We're going to be talking about 3.5 acres sandwiched between the middle fork of the Flathead River and some national forest land out here in Flathead County, Montana. This is right around Coram, Montana, Hungry Horse, West Glacier National Park entrance. So this is a really fun land investment. We sell a lot of property like this here at Wilco Land. This is our niche. This is our specialty, offering really affordable recreational property like this. So in the video, I'm going to teach you first and foremost how you can access a property. I'm going to show you some really good benches, buildable areas for yurts, off-grid tiny homes, structures like that, even just a glorified campsite to use on the weekends with friends and family, right? There's a lot of uses for a property like this, and it really offers an affordable, fun, recreational type property for a family. So let's talk about it a little bit more. I've got the property pulled up on Google Maps here. It's right outside of Coram, Montana. Down here is Hungry Horse, Montana. This is Columbia Falls, and then this is the entrance to West Glacier. So really a special part of the state here. If we zoom out, this is a really popular area on the middle fork of the Flathead River too for people to float, right? The first access point I want to talk about, I have pulled up on Onyx Maps. So what I'm going to do first and foremost is look up the coordinates. This is my favorite app to use for land viewings, and this is going to be almost essential if you want to go view this property to understand where it's located. So right here we can see the property information. We've got 3.5 acres. The first access route, and the most obvious, is from the Flathead River. So you can float to the property and you can get on the property from the Flathead River. That's the most obvious, right? The second access route is actually hiking in from this Forest Service road right here. It's not that long of a hike. I want to say 800-900 yards back to the property like that. And like I said, when the target audience of this property is going to be somebody who wants to pack in these materials, who wants this type of privacy, who wants a fun recreational property at a really low price. If there was a road going to the property, this would be worth, six figures, right? So you're getting an opportunity to get into a property in a really cool location, but you got to hike back there, right? Or work with Forest Service on, getting a special use permit to get back to your property. That's an option too. That process is going to take 12 or more months. So, but people do it. People work with Forest Service to get some sort of access route to their property. That's something I can't guarantee at this sale. That's something that, you'd have to do down the road once you own the property. So talking about this access route that comes in from right here, this is your hike in. It's a really flat area. It should be easy to hike through. You're going to come up to Blankenship Bridge. You're going to head over here. You're going to head south right here. You're going to head over here if you're following my cursor. You're going to head south right here. Then you're going to head right here and keep coming down. This is called 116A. It's called Tea Kettle Road. Right here, Tea Kettle Road. It comes all the way through another Forest Service property. Again, it's referred to as 116A or Tea Kettle Road. It's going to keep coming through right here through the National Forest, and you're going to be able to stop right here somewhere, either on Thin Place Trail and pull off, or on Tea Kettle Road right here. So let's say you're walking from this area. It's pretty flat for the most part too. Like that's not a challenging walk back there, but let's measure it just for the sake of understanding what this distance is. So let's say we measure it from right here. Getting back to the property is about 900 yards. If you park a little bit closer, from right here, let's say you pull your car off, you're looking at about 780 yards. So not that long of a walk in there. Like I said, regardless of the walk, if you're looking to pay $250,000 for, or even 100,000 for something on the Flathead River, I mean, good luck even finding that available, right? This is a really unique and rare type of land investment. There's just not anything for sale on the Flathead River. It just doesn't come up. It's either owned by the government or it's private ownership, and those people could consider that a legacy property. They're not giving that up. So that's kind of the story. You don't see a lot of listings like this pop up, especially at our asking price. Let's talk about land use and the target audience. We can see it's fairly steep down here by the river, but there's a really good bench to use on this property. And I'm going to measure this out to help you understand some really good usable sections. So I would consider this a really nice bench up on the property. We can look here. It looks mostly flat right here. And this is a 3/4 of an acre right there, and that's a really good usable section of the property. If you cover the whole thing, you're almost at a full acre right here of usable space on this property. So I think I wanted to point this out because this would be a good place for an off-grid cabin, a couple of yurts, a really cool campsite, things like that. Okay. Let's go back. Let's look at some other areas too that we've got here. Up here on the north end of the property is also a nice section. This is pretty sweet. I think this would be a cool spot. So let's try to measure this out. So starting right here, here's kind of one area a guy could use. That's about 0.2 acres. That's a lot of space, you guys. That still is a lot of space, right? People if you live in town in a city, like your lot is probably less than a quarter acre. So like I said, you can stay on this bench and keep coming down here. You're still at, almost a quarter acre, 0.17 acres right there. This bench is really nice and usable about right here. And then it opens back up again down here, right? So you've got a really usable section on the north end of the property and the south end of the property. And I'll kind of I'll measure the distance for you to help you understand, how wide this section is. It looks a lot smaller than it really is. So right here to that cliff line is almost 20 yards. That's a long way. That's 2 first downs on a football field. So that goes a long way. There's a lot of usable space right there. So that's about a 20-yard width along this bench here. And then if you go further down the property, it really opens up quite a bit. Let's look at this. I mean, this section of the property right here is 22 yards. Let's go another section. As we go further to the south of the property, it opens up to 25 yards. So that really hopefully helps you understand what this property is. I mean, I haven't, to go as far as building $1 million home back here, I think that's pretty unlikely. But, the reality is somebody's going to snatch this up for our asking price, right? It's the cheapest listing you can find in Flathead County. It's adjacent to the Flathead River. And I want to talk about some of the Flathead River access too. I know this looks really steep, but I've seen people build, little hiking sections, contraptions like ladders that go into the Colorado River. So I viewed a property out in Westwater Canyon, which is just south of Moab, Utah. And somebody on their private property had a ladder that went about 12 feet, 15 feet down, all roped up, everything like that, that went straight up a red rock cliff onto their top of the property. It was a plateau overlooking the Colorado River. So they used a ladder to get down to the river. Once you get down to the river, you've got a nice little section down here to use. This all looks really usable right here along the river where the trees are at. This looks pretty darn steep, and this is actually Flathead National Forest, this little sliver of land right here. But when people look at properties like this, they're the creative type, right? They're looking for get their foot in the door for a land investment that will last a lifetime, not only a lifetime, but generational land investment along the Flathead River. There's a lot of ways to make this thing more usable with contraptions like ladders that come down to the river, a rope system that can bring you up to the top of your property, setting up campsites up here, setting up yurts up here. You can choose to hike into the property, like we talked about, that's 700, 800, 900 yards to hike in and pack your materials back there. Or you can work with Forest Service and, potentially get some sort of special use permit to put some sort of road in back there. For the cost of the property and for what you're getting in this property, I think the likelihood that somebody's going to spend all this money to put a road back there is pretty slim. So the way we're selling this property is a recreational land investment that offers a lot of potential for off-grid cabins back there, for hike-in access, for riverfront access, a fun weekend getaway for your family and friends, and a land investment that's going to last for generations out here in Montana. So if you have interest in the property, give us a call. I do have other listings in Montana I want to show you while we're in this video quick. Other riverfront listings as well. You can see we're actually all over the United States here in Wyoming, New Mexico, another property out here in Montana. Here's a really good deal out here in Dutton, Montana. So yeah, take a peek at the website. If there's anything that interests you, just get with our team here. You can reach us at 605-299-5553. Look forward to chatting, and hopefully you found this video really helpful. Thanks for tuning in.